I was happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores, and they finally freed my boy. I was screaming free Jabril till it's backwards. It looks like the Commanders will finally elevate linebacker Jabril Cox from the practice squad. Y'all know how I felt about him since he was over at North Dakota State with Trey Lance. Then, instead of going into the draft after his junior season, he transferred to LSU, and then I wanted him bad after he finally hit the draft. The Cowboys got him way later in the draft, just like crazy late, and I was just so upset. And then comes full circle, he ends up on our practice squad right before the season starts, and I'm happy that he is now projected to be elevated against the Eagles. We'll see if he actually plays. I'm pretty sure he will. You wouldn't just take the time to elevate this guy from the practice squad to take up a roster spot for him not to play. So I'm really excited. So we got to talk about Jabril Cox. And for those of y'all who may not be aware of who he is, I'm going to break down some interesting stats and Pro Football Focus grades and all of that concerning him before he landed in DC. We got to talk about what he did in college, what he did in the preseason for the Cowboys immediately after he was drafted, what he did for the Cowboys leading up to the point that now he's ended up on our team. We got to talk about how he ended up on our practice squad with a guy with this much talent, a guy that I wanted us to draft since 4 years ago. How did he end up on the Commanders practice squad while we have a bad linebacker core? Injuries, a lot of things that went down. I'm just happy to have him here. We're going to do a whole breakdown of him. Of course, also, we're going to do a full injury report. We're going to talk about who's in, who's out as far as the Commander side and the Eagle side, and I'm going to update y'all on all of that. Ron Vera spoke on Sadiq Charles' injury and how long he feels like he should be out with said injury and all of that. So before we dive into all that, make sure you stiff arm the like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Be on the lookout for constant content. I'm trying to see if I can squeeze out another video maybe late tonight, early tomorrow morning. We'll see, and then do another video after that. I'm gonna have to work around my Georgia Bulldogs game though, but I have so many videos I need to come up with before this Eagles game even happens. And then the Eagles game at 1 p.m. Sunday, I will be live streaming that entire thing, all 4 quarters. I'm gonna start streaming like 15 minutes before, like 12:45 p.m. so we can start to talk about a lot of predictions, how we feel about the game. We can talk about Jabril Cox during then as well. I can answer any questions y'all may have before we dive into the actual game. And of course, also, if you want to support the stream, YouTube is tripping, so you can donate to the $RicoScores Cash App. Again, that's $RicoScores. Also, the PayPal, if you prefer that route, is WilliamHC94@gmail.com. Also, shouts out my boy Dwayne for donating yesterday in between my videos. Again, if you donate while I'm not live streaming, I'll make sure to shout you out the next video, the next live stream, or whatever. So, man, appreciate my boy Dwayne. Without further ado, sorry for the long intro. Let's get it.
You tell your family you can be a commander.
All right, so Ron Rivera said that linebacker Jabril Cox will be elevated from the practice squad with Cody Barton out with an ankle injury. And I feel like this should have been done even despite Cody Barton being hurt. Like, even if Cody Barton was fully healthy, Jamin Davis fully healthy, Khalid Hudson fully healthy, I've been screaming for Jabril Cox to come off of the practice squad for so long that I started to give up. I was like, okay, I guess we're just not going to do it. But the Cody Barton injury showed that maybe we will. Now, David Mayo is so bad. Yeah, I mean, who didn't expect that? David Mayo is a certified run stopper, but he's just a complete liability in coverage. And that's kind of underrated to say because, like, literally, people I remember during the live stream while we were watching the Giants game together on my channel, that people were screaming like, hey, Jack Del Rio, get David Mayo off of Darren Waller. But honestly, who do you want on him? Do you want David Mayo covering Saquon Barkley? Imagine that tackle in the open space after Saquon Barkley catches the ball in the open field. David Mayo one-on-one in open. I can't even imagine. I mean, him against all of the Giants receivers. They may not be the best receivers, but they're some of the fastest in the NFL. All of these guys run a 4.4 at the slowest. Some of these guys are running 4.3 somethings. You have Jalen Hyatt. Do you want David Mayo on one of those guys? Remember, David Mayo was slower than Jacoby Brissett. I remember that. I think it was during a training camp practice that David Mayo was trying to track down Jacoby Brissett, and Jacoby Brissett beat him to the angle. Like, he's slower than Jacoby Brissett. So it's just like, I mean, yeah, Darren Waller, it didn't matter. No matter who Jack Del had David Mayo covering, the offense for the Giants wasn't get the ball to our best playmakers, get it to Darren Waller, get it to Saquon. It was, if it's a passing play, just target whoever David Mayo was covering. That's how bad it was. And so I felt like it was only a matter of time before Jabril Cox would get his chance. And maybe this is like a sign that we are starting to get into seller's mode, where we're starting to have in-game auditions. Like, hey man, might as well give the kid on the practice squad a shot, see what he can do, because it's like, why not at this point? Winning is still one of our priorities, but it's probably not the priority. Now we're starting to look at player development and to see what we have on this roster so that we can evaluate guys. We don't want to get to the 2024 regular season without seeing Jabril Cox ever getting into a regular season game, and now we don't know what we have in him. So, hey man, maybe that's the logic behind that. Either way, I'm just happy to see my boy out there, and we'll see how this goes, man. I'm just really excited to see my boy. I'm not expecting him to go out there and ball out immediately. The reason I really feel like that he didn't get a chance sooner was because I thought maybe it was because he was like learning the defense. Jack Del Rio's defense, well, really any defensive coordinator's defense in the NFL takes a while to learn. To go from North Dakota State to LSU to the Cowboys and now to be coached under Jack Del Rio. So yeah, Dan Quinn last year, for the last couple of years, like within 5 years, he's had to deal with four defensive coordinators. So that's not easy. You know, that's not something you could just quickly pick up. Now defense is probably quicker to pick up than offense, especially like as a quarterback or something like that. But still, man, I mean, we're asking him to play linebacker. So if there were any position on the defense that would probably take the longest to adjust to, it is linebacker, because you have to cover and stop the run. And you know, ideally, we would hope he could step up and contribute as some type of Mike linebacker, even though with his size, I'm not sure about that. But at the same time, we don't want Jamin Davis doing it, because when Jamin Davis had the green dot, he had the helmet, he had all of the Jack Del Rio's voice in his head telling him what play is coming up next, and he had to handle getting everybody together. You could tell he was thinking more and doing less, thinking more and moving less, and that was like the worst Jamin Davis we've ever seen. So we don't want him to have it. Khaleke Hudson's a linebacker safety hybrid. He's made plays against the run, but I don't think he could be a full-time linebacker, Mike linebacker type of guy, a true run stopper. That's why we threw David Mayo out there when Cody Barton got hurt. And I tried to warn y'all too. A lot of y'all complaining about Cody Barton. I was complaining about him too, but I was warning you, the grass is not always greener. It can get worse than Cody Barton. A lot of people were saying, nah, it can't be any worse than Cody Barton. He's the worst linebacker ever. I was trying to warn y'all, man. It could definitely be worse than Cody Barton. And now we saw it was with David Mayo, especially when it came to coverage. But as far as Jabril Cox goes, I mean, who's going to be our Mike linebacker? Who's going to wear the green dot? There's speculation that it may end up being Cameron Curl from the strong safety position. He's going to be the one that hears Jack Del Rio's voice. He's the one that gets told to play. He has to relay that play to everybody on the defense, get everybody situated, and then he's got to get ready to do his own job. So we'll see how that goes. It'd be nice if Jabril Cox could handle that. I think mentally he could. I'm just worried about his size-wise against the run. But coverage-wise, we don't have to worry about coverage when it comes to Jabril. If you could take Jabril Cox's coverage and put it in David Mayo's run stopping, you would have an all-pro linebacker. And we're going to get to that, man. So again, I'm just really happy. It's interesting how this all went down. I'm still a little surprised that he's going to end up playing this soon. But again, I think it's a sign for things to come. We're about to start evaluating people, man. We about to start throwing out some later round draft picks, some backups, some depth starters, some depth chart guys that, like, I mean, yeah, we're still trying to win, but we don't want to get to 2024 without seeing what these guys can do. We're going to probably end up throwing Ricky Strongberg out there, Chris Paul, both of the interior offensive linemen. We're probably going to end up throwing everybody out there at some point. Emmanuel Forbes may get to the point where even if they don't trust him, he may just start getting more playing time. So we'll see how that goes. Now let's get to Jabril Cox. So we're going to work in order. So we're going to start with what he looked like coming out of college, entering the draft. Then we're going to talk about what he looked like in the Cowboys preseason. Then we're going to take a look at what happened while he was on the Cowboys for him to end up on our practice squad. Well, let's start with the fact that his career in coverage, he had 1,114 snaps between North Dakota State and LSU. He only allowed 2 touchdowns and had 8 interceptions. That's ridiculous. And for LSU alone, in the SEC, against the top dogs, this is not North Dakota State. We're just isolating LSU, having to go against Georgia, Alabama, all of these programs. Out of 41 targets, Out of 352 coverage snaps, he allowed 0 touchdowns. He had 3 interceptions and had 0 penalties. Like literally perfection in coverage. Literal perfection. It's ridiculous. He had a 91.3 career coverage grade from the slot as a linebacker, second highest of any NFL draft defender coming out of his draft class. That's including like Jamin Davis, Micah Parsons, all of those guys. And at a certain point in the draft, a lot of people felt like he was the best player available, and he just kept sliding and sliding. Pro Football Focus, before the draft even happened, said that Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, JOK, we remember a lot of us wanted him, he ended up on the Browns, was the most versatile player in coverage. They felt like the best athlete was Jamin Davis. You can see the argument for there, but they felt like the best coverage instincts was Jabril Cox. Out of every linebacker in that draft, again, including Micah Parsons, Jabril Cox has the best coverage instincts. And then in the preseason, Jabril Cox was tied for the most defensive stops by all rookie linebackers in that said preseason with 10 in the 2021 preseason. I mean, just a ridiculous debut. I know it's preseason, but still. And then in the preseason that he was drafted, that 2021 preseason, he was the highest graded Cowboy, period. Like, not defender, not rookie, just the highest graded Dallas Cowboy from the entire preseason with an 83.3 grade. Behind him was tight end Jake Ferguson, then it was Brandon Smith, then it was Tristan Hill, then it was Connor McGovern. So out of the whole preseason, he was their highest graded player. So it's just like, what happened? I mean, this guy sounds like he was going to be a star. What happened? I mean, for the Cowboys, sadly, he only appeared in 9 games and only recorded 6 total tackles last year, the 2022 season. He was just underutilized, and even when he wasn't underutilized, he was getting hurt. He was drafted in the 4th round, 2021, by the Cowboys out of LSU. He tore his ACL during his rookie season and returned last year, which was the 2022 season, mainly as a special teams player. But again, he had 6 total tackles. That's not much at all. And then he ended up on the Cowboys practice squad, and then we ended up taking him from the practice squad. Now, this is a guy that's 6'3", 235 pounds. And we're talking about Cody Barton getting hurt. We're talking about David Mayo being sorry in coverage. But also, Tariq Castro-Fields was terrible on special teams against the Giants. He like literally made things harder for us in that Giants game. I don't know if a lot of people noticed. And now Tariq Castro-Fields is being left on the practice squad and Jabril Cox is being elevated from it. So at the very least, we know Jabril Cox is going to play a lot of special teams for us. I hope he plays some linebacker. I'm not entirely sure if he'll play a lot of linebacker for us, but at the very least, he's going to be on the field playing some special teams. But again, we gotta wait and see. We gotta be patient and see how much linebacker he plays. I hope he goes out there, balls out in special teams to earn a linebacker opportunity, and then he makes the most of that. And then now we found one of our linebackers of the future. We build around Jamin Davis and Jabril Cox. I'm hoping that's how that goes, because Jamin Davis is starting to become a playmaker and a game changer. You can argue we may not win that Falcons game, and I highly doubt we win that Broncos game without Jamin Davis making game-changing turnovers. That fumble against the Broncos literally shifted the whole game. We ended up coming from behind to win that. Without that, the Ravens, not only do we not score on offense, but the Broncos are also on the way to probably score on offense themselves, and the score probably gets even more out of reach for us. And then by then, maybe the morale is down, team gives up, and we're sitting at 2-5 instead of 3-4. Also, again, the Falcons game, that interception against Bijan Robinson in the open field man coverage, pure man. I'm not even sure if he had safety help to go and get that game-sealing interception like that. Who knows what would happen if he didn't? Maybe the Falcons go down and score. We end up losing that game. Who knows? But he has been a really impactful player. He hasn't been as super consistent as you would hope a first round pick would be, a 19th overall pick, but he's getting better. He's starting to actually impact games. You actually notice him on the field. He's getting better against the run, so I want to build around him. I want to build around Jabril Cox. Those should be our 2 outside linebackers. Now we just got to find a true dominant Mike linebacker that's a true certified run stopper that at the same time isn't a liability in coverage like David Mayo. Just give us a David Mayo that can actually cover me out, if that could actually cover Rico of RicoScores in the open field. Give me somebody that can at least do that, that can also stop the run. And I think we'll have a really, really good linebacker core. But again, baby steps. Don't expect Jabril Cox to go out there and play a lot, especially at linebacker against the Eagles. But I'm just happy that he's finally starting to get noticed and looked at, and he's being elevated from the practice squad. That's the first step to a hopefully dominant career that I truly feel like he can have for the Washington Commanders. And then moving on to the official injury report on the Commander side, we're going to talk about the Eagles side a little bit later. So far out, we have Cody Barton and Sadiq Charles, so we know for a fact those guys aren't playing. And as far as the Sadiq Charles injury, Ron Rivera said with his strained calf, it could be a multi-week injury, so don't expect to see Sadiq Charles anytime soon. We play the Eagles, then we play the Patriots, then we play the Seahawks, then the Giants, then the Cowboys, and the Dolphins, then a bye week. I'm assuming he'll probably be back before December 10th, that bye week, and that's a really far bye week, man. December 10th is your bye week. It's crazy. We got set up a failure there. But hey, man, again, like I said before in a previous video, I'm surprised Sadiq Charles even made it to week 7. I didn't. Once they named him the starting left guard, I didn't expect him to even make it that far. So I'm actually pretty impressed with how far he made it without getting hurt. But it still sucks that he got hurt because he was our starting left guard. He actually was pretty good, decent. A lot of people feel like he's been our best offensive lineman this season so far, and the most consistent, especially when it comes to getting out there and blocking down the field on screen plays and things like that. You could argue he's been our best offensive lineman, at the very least at that. So it sucks to lose him. And again, it also, of course, sucks to lose Cody Barton because now you got to see David Mayo. Now, hopefully we don't go and sign what's his name, John Bostic. Kind of a name like, again, there's some names that's kind of like Voldemort. You just don't even want to speak them to existence. But hey, man, I just really hope we don't dive that deep to getting John Bostic. Stop trying to put band-aids on things. Just like with the quarterback situation, people asking for Jacoby Brissett for what? Like, let's just go ahead and figure out what we have. I'm not to full rebuild mode just yet. I'm not the full tank mode. I still would like to win. I'm hoping we're competing for a playoff spot. But it's definitely like no point in bringing in older band-aids to try to win us games. You either live or die with Sam Howell. And if he isn't the guy, then you move on. You get another guy. But it's like, can we at least find out? Same thing with our linebackers, Jabril Cox, Jamin Davis, Khalil Hudson. Keep throwing those guys out there. Don't bring in a John Bostic for what? And first of all, he's just bad. Let's just go ahead and get that out the way. But even if he wasn't terrible, even if he was just mid, if he was just alright, like, what's the point? Let's see what our younger guys have so we can build towards the future. You know what I'm saying? Just like that for a lot of position groups, man. Tight end. Why are we not giving Cole Turner more looks? I like Logan Thomas, but Cole Turner should be getting more looks so that by the time we get to the 2024 season, we have a better idea of not only how good or bad he is, whatever. I think he's pretty good, though. He catches everything thrown towards him, but also maybe by 2024 we know how to utilize him. We know how to build an offense or plays around bringing the best out of him. He has to play. He has to be out there for us to get them. So I mean, I know I'm going on a tangent, but that's just the general logic for why we shouldn't start a Jacoby Brissett, why we shouldn't go and sign a John Bostic. Stop putting band-aids on these situations. It's either swim or sink with these younger guys, man. Also, questionable wise, we have Fadarian Mathis. They opened up this 21-day practice window for him to come off of IR. So we got to see he has 21 days to officially move to the 53-man roster officially. I'm really excited because, hey, we've been dealing with this tush-push situation. Maybe he could be the secret weapon to stop that. That's his job. He's supposed to come in as like a nose tackle, even though John Ridgeway, Deron Payne, and Jonathan Allen have been struggling with it. Everybody has been. It has like a 90-something% success rate, which almost just basically feels like it's cheating. But again, my whole logic behind it is if they can do it, anybody can do it. If it's allowed currently, I think it shouldn't be allowed. Hopefully in the offseason, they finally rule that out. But since it's there, don't complain about it. How about you do it back? If they can do it, how about when we're 4th and short, we do it right back? But we can't. So I'm not gonna get on the Eagles or Eagles fans too much for enjoying what they're getting out of that. Hey, man, technically anybody could do it. But still though, for Darian Mathis, man, hopefully he's the secret weapon to this. We'll see if he ends up playing. Again, he's only played like one drive in his NFL career so far. He got hurt like the first or second drive of his NFL career. His rookie season last year against the Jaguars in the first quarter, of course, and then he got hurt in the preseason. So we literally haven't seen this man play an entire quarter since we drafted him in the second round in the 2022 draft. So I'm just excited to see him out there because we literally don't know what our defense looks like with Fadarian Mathis in it. We literally have no idea. It's crazy. John Ridgeway has been a pleasant surprise for us, a huge surprise. he's far outplayed what people expected of him. I mean, the fact that the Cowboys tried to put him on their practice squad and we stole him, and even after that, he just surpassed everybody's expectations. Darian Mathis was drafted in the second round, so if anything, he should be a better version of John Ridgeway. So I'm really excited about seeing what he can do. Curtis Samuel was limited in practice Thursday and Friday, and he just straight up didn't participate Wednesday. He's questionable. I hope he plays because he's been arguably one of our more consistent receivers. It's really just been him and Terry McLaurin and friends. De'Ami Brown hasn't been extremely impactful. Jahan Dropson keeps dropping passes. I really hope Curtis Samuel's out there, because as of right now, if he's not, it just feels like Sam Howell only has Terry McLaurin to help him out. And then you have Benjamin St-Juste, Jonathan Allen, Samuel Cosby, Montez Sweat, and Cole Turner, who are all perfectly good to go, full participants in practice today as in Friday, so we don't have to worry about them. And then the Eagles side, the only player they have out is cornerback Bradley Roby. That's not much of a lot. I mean, again, these are not only the same Eagles we basically played last time we played them a couple of weeks ago, but then they added, I know Julio Jones is a shell of himself, but still, Julio Jones gets added to that after A.J. Brown was whooping up all of our corners, most notably Emmanuel Forbes. I still don't understand why we don't have Benjamin St-Juste on A.J. Brown all day, no matter what, after the way he shut him down the way we played the Eagles last year. And then on top of all of that, Julio Jones, just to add that in there, is just crazy. Again, he's a shell of himself, but it's still a future Hall of Famer, man. You gotta at least, as Jack DeRio, account for that. You don't want David Mayo on Julio Jones. I don't care what's going on. People are gonna be out here thinking, oh, Julio Jones is back if David Mayo's covering him. And then on top of all of that, they went and traded for Kevin Byard, an all-pro safety from the Titans. Like, this team literally, if anything, is better than what we just played a couple of weeks ago. Like, this is really ridiculous. It's getting crazy. They already have all of my Georgia Bulldogs on there making a heavy impact. But then they're just acquiring players left and right. I absolutely love what the Eagles are doing from a front office standpoint, as a roster management standpoint. I feel like they're doing it the best, because the Rams did it and they got a Super Bowl out of it, but they did it in a way that, like, their future was killed. Like, they were going to have to be terrible to average at best for a few years after what they went through, going all in on the Super Bowl. The Eagles are finding a way to go all in, but also not sacrifice the future. It's really ridiculous. I don't know how they're doing it, but it's masterful. So shouts out to the Eagles, man. I gotta give them credit for that. And then for the rest of the injury report, you have Reed Blankenship, James Bradbury, Zach Cunningham, and Milton Williams. They're all good to go. They're all not questionable, not nothing, fully ready to practice. I mean, you got to remember, James Bradbury was a free agent. Zach Cunningham was a free agency pickup. Hassan Reddick, all of these, it's just ridiculous, dog. This is absolutely insane how the Eagles have built a roster this ridiculous, man. They traded for A.J. Brown. They didn't draft A.J. Brown. Half their team, probably, arguably, the majority of their great players are players they brought in through free agency of the draft. It's really crazy. And then now, before we go, also shouts out to Grant Paulson. I brought up this point in my previous video yesterday, but just to reiterate, the Commanders drafted Ricky Strongberg in the 3rd round. He was one of the best centers in the country, you can argue, and named the top offensive lineman in the SEC last year out of everybody. Regardless, center, guard, tackle, no matter what, he was named the top offensive lineman in the SEC, which is the roughest trenches in the entire college football landscape. In week 18, they are possibly benching their starting center in Nick Gates and going to another veteran instead of the 3rd rounder. So what was the point of drafting him in the 3rd round? If you were that high on him in the 3rd round, why is he not ready to go by week 8? He should have technically been ready to start week 1. You draft somebody in the 3rd round, you think they're an immediate starter. In my book, they should be. The way other teams draft, I don't know about the Commanders, but the way other teams draft, 3rd rounders are supposed to start immediately. And we're week 8. We're all the way this far in. He's probably not our starting center. Now, maybe he's not our starting center because it's going to be Tyler Larson. I've already given you the record. With him last year, we were 6-1-1. Without him, we were 1-6. So again, like I said in my previous video, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's because Tyler Larson's that good. I don't care if he's that talented. I don't care if he's just good luck. I don't care if he just curses and puts bad juju on the other team, and for some reason when he's on the field for us, we just win more games. I don't care what it is. Go ahead and throw him on the field. I don't care if it's not a tangible, trackable trait that he has that allows us to win more games, but whatever it is, throw him out there. I want to win more games. But still, at the same time, maybe they're just going to throw Tyler Larson at center so that Ricky Strongberg can play guard. Maybe if it's more of we prefer Ricky Strongberg at guard than center. But I don't know. It's still a bad look for you to draft somebody in the 3rd round. You're benching one of your top free agency signings, and then you're going to start a veteran that, you know, not very highly thought of amongst the NFL over your third round center that you just drafted. It is a chaotic, ugly situation. Speaking of chaotic and ugly, look at this illustration right here, man. This is ridiculous, dog. Like, it's ridiculous how Ron Rivera has allowed this to happen, dog. Look at the similarities from every season he's been our head coach. And so now I want to pose the question to y'all. Do y'all think we're about to go on one of those great runs where over the next 6 games, at worst, we lose is 2 games? The most losses we take is 2. And we're basically slated to win 4 games over the course of these next few weeks. I mean, and then you see how we always finish. Start bad, get hot, and then just fall right on our face, man. I absolutely don't get it. But hey, let's keep this in mind. We're talking about weeks 8 through 14, right? We're estimated to go 4-2 just based on history, right? Listen to the opponents we're going against. This ain't some normal stuff now. The Eagles, whoo-wee. The Patriots, ooh-wee. Week 10, the Seahawks, not easy. Week 11, the Giants, we couldn't beat them last time. We'll see what happens. Week 12, the Cowboys, not easy. Week 13, the Dolphins, and then we have a bye week. And then after that, we got to play the Rams, the Jets, probably with Aaron Rodgers, the 49ers, who are angry because they've lost a couple of games they feel like they shouldn't have. And then the Cowboys again. But just weeks 8 through 14, just to keep that isolated. Eagles, Patriots, Seahawks, Giants, Cowboys, Dolphins, and a bye week. Does that sound like 4-2 to y'all, or at worst 2 losses to y'all? I don't know, man. We'll see if Ron Rivera, if he's just so great at just sticking to what he is, that we could somehow end up winning games we shouldn't, just to stay on track with what he does. Just to basically, just all in all, to end up with a sorry draft pick, but not to amount to any playoff appearance, victory, or anything like that. Let's just do the best job we can to have the worst draft pick possible without going to the playoffs. That just seems to be Ron Rivera's motive. And again, like I've said for years since we hired him, even before we hired him under the Jay Gruden era, the worst thing you can be is perpetually average in sports. You're never going to be good enough to amount to anything that's like brag worthy, anything to reflect on. Sit back on your couch and just reminisce about the good old Commanders, Washington football team, Redskins days, and there's nothing to be happy about. And then you're also never bad enough to get truly dominant, game-changing players. I know a lot of people complain about Chase Young. I know he's been hurt and stuff like that, but since he's returned, since he's played, since starting week 2 this season, he's been our best defensive lineman easily. It may not even be close, and he's the only one that's a top 5, top 10 draft pick. We traded back up in the first round in the 20 somewhere to get Montez Sweat. But Chase Young is like our only true serious game changer on defense right now, literally. He's not even all the way game changing like I would hope, but he's been our best defensive player easily since week 2. Basically this whole season. Y'all just wonder why we just keep being average, ending up with these bad draft picks but not going to the playoffs, and why we keep end up getting, I love Jahan Dotson. I think he'll eventually figure it out, but we just keep getting these guys that aren't just game changers, playmakers when you need them the most. And that's why this perpetual average, this just staying consistently average, is never going to get you anywhere. Literally better off just embracing the tank being terrible, getting some game changers, some playmakers, and then running it back and trying again. But this constantly trying to stay afloat thing, I've been trying to warn y'all for years. We'll see how long we keep going with that and see how long it takes for us to finally even have a chance to get to a Super Bowl. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything we talked about in this video. Jabril Cox being ready, hopefully he plays as much as possible. How much do you feel like they'll actually give him an opportunity to play against the Eagles, or at all this season at any point? Also, let me know how you feel about our injury report, the fact that we're more banged up than the Eagles, and if anything, the Eagles are even better than they were the last time we played them, which is a little scary. I mean, we thought we were bad with Cody Barton against the Eagles. Imagine no Cody Barton against the Eagles. I'm scared, but hey, man, we always play the Eagles. We've played the Eagles close, and we even beat them 2 matchups ago, so you never know, but we'll see. And then also everything else with Ron Rivera's record that I just showed you on the screen and everything. Ricky Strongberg not starting at center as a 3rd round pick. Let me know how you feel about all of that. And man, again, if you want to support the channel because YouTube is tripping, you can donate to $RicoScores is the Cash App. Also, the PayPal is WilliamHC94@gmail.com. All of the information is in the description of this video and every video, every live stream. And again, if you donate while I'm off camera, I will shout you out the next time I'm on camera, whether it's a video or a live stream. So, man, I really appreciate y'all. I'm going to catch y'all later. I'm out.